What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. I'm recording this one a few hours after Washington's 31-19 loss at home against the New York Giants in a game that was a must-win for the Washington Commanders in terms of they were favored to win by 9 points against a Giants team that was starting their third-string quarterback in Tommy DeVito. They let Tommy DeVito put up a stat line of 18 of 26, 246 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I don't know. I really don't know what else to say about this defense, this team anymore, because you let Tommy DeVito put up those types of numbers, those numbers that, let's say those numbers were for Sam Howell. We'd be super impressed if those numbers were from Sam Howell. We let Tommy DeVito put up these numbers. A UDFA, I believe he's a rookie too. I could be wrong. Pulling up real quick. He is a rookie. He's a 25-year-old rookie out of Illinois, and we let him absolutely light up our defense. He looked like Tom Brady out there. It was bad. It was bad for the Washington Commanders. We'll start with the first thing, something that Ron Rivera emphasized a lot during his press conference, and that was the turnovers for Washington. Washington turned the ball over 6 different times. Almost 7, but 6 different times, almost 7. That is unacceptable. You're not going to win a game in the NFL when you turn the ball over 6 times. It's not possible. It's not possible. I also thought we'll get into it a little bit later, but I also thought that it was impossible to lose a game where you sacked the other team 9 times. But I'll get into that in a little bit. But first, 6 different turnovers. I'm going to go through all of them. Sam Howell, 3 interceptions, threw one on the opening drive, a deep pass to De'Ami Brown. De'Ami Brown maybe could have ran the route a little bit better. Sam Howell's ball placement on that deep ball could have been a little bit better. It was on him. Not entirely. It wasn't like a super dumb decision. It was the right read to go deep. It was a good shot. But again, I laid it out a little bit too far, intercepted. That was his first interception. And then we had a fumble. Who was it? Logan Thomas fumbled. Byron Pringle fumbled on a kick return. Chris Rodriguez fumbled. And also Brian Robinson fumbled as well. And almost lost that one. So we had 3 fumbles. And then the other 2 interceptions, Sam Howell just kind of desperate heave down the field, got intercepted. Kind of the ball got tipped maybe a little bit when he was rolling out to his right. I think it was Dexter Lawrence who was running after him. It wasn't a good play. Intercepted, and then the final drive, intercepted again too on also like a deep shot. So it was not it wasn't a deep shot. Sorry, it was kind of like a heave, pressure in the pocket, kind of tried to throw the ball away, but didn't get enough under it. And it was just like easy interception, easy pick 6 for Isaiah Simmons. So Isaiah Simmons got an interception. Darnay Holmes got an interception, and Nick McLeod got an interception. So it's not good. The Sam Howell performance today was not great. We'll just get into that now. Talk about the turnovers. You cannot be turning the ball over. Last thing on that yet. You cannot be turning the ball over 6 times in a game. And Washington, so far this season, they've been relatively okay in terms of not turning the ball over that much, in terms of fumbles and everything, because I know we've had fumble problems in the past. Today, fumbling the ball 4 different times, losing it 3 different times. You are very lucky. Brian Robinson in the red zone fumbled the ball. Very, very lucky that it was recovered by Jamison Crowder in Washington there, because if he lost that one in the red zone, it would have been crazy. 4 different fumbles that we lost. So 6 total. And it could have been 7. So very, very not great performance from this offense today, including Sam Howell, which Sam Howell's stat line, we go through this pretty much every week. 31 of 45, 255 yards, a touchdown, 3 picks, and he took 4 sacks as well. We look at Sam Howell in the last few games. He's now thrown 40 or more times in each of the last 5 weeks. He threw 42 passes against the Giants, 52 passes against the Eagles, 45 passes against the Patriots, 44 against the Seahawks, and 45 today against the New York Giants. He leads the league in attempts, in passing attempts. He leads the league in completions. He leads the league in passing yards going into this week. I'm not sure if he still does. He's up over 1,000. Let me make sure real quick. I think he still is. It hasn't updated yet, but I'm pretty sure he still leads the league in passing yards. So overall, I guess they throw the ball a lot with Eric Bieniemy, and you're going to get what you're going to get out of Sam Howell, who started his 12th career game today here in week 11 of his second year. So Sam Howell it wasn't a great performance from him. I think some of these interceptions were, I'm going to have to look back at the film again. Some of these interceptions were on him in terms of more decision making than ball placement. I think he could have done better and avoided some of these interceptions, especially the one towards the end of the game when he threw the game-sealing interception to Isaiah Simmons. Just take the sack. I know time's running out. I guess you can try and heave one out of bounds, but you're just too late. You're under pressure. You got bodies all around you. Too late. You're not going to get enough under it to throw it out of bounds. So, not so great of a performance today from QB1. However, I will say, QB1, I still believe in him. This is a rough performance. You're going to go through these rough patches. If you're Washington, when you're developing a quarterback, it's just going to happen. You look at guys like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, even they had bad games when they were developing. So Sam Howell here having a not so great game, throwing 3 picks. I think it puts his total up in double digits now. He had 9 coming. Yep, he now has 12 interceptions on the season, 18 touchdowns. Like you're gonna live or die through Sam Howell this season. It was kind of what's going to be what it was going to be heading into the season. That was kind of the expectation. The season was going to rely on Sam Howell's performance and also the offensive line performance. So Howell, bad game from him today. The offense only putting up 19 points. Looked very much like a Scott Turner offense in terms of the points that they put up. Eric Bieniemy's play calling, I guess I'll just throw it in here into the Sam Howell part, but Eric Bieniemy's play calling, it needs to step up. There's no way you're putting up 19 points against a Giants team that is injured. I think it's the most injured team in the NFL. You put up less than 20 points or 20 points or less in 3 of the last 5 weeks. 3 of the last 5 weeks, you put up 20 points or less. 3 of the last 5, 4 of the last 6, you've put up 4 of the last 7, I think. You put up 20 points or less. And so you look at last season with Scott Turner, that team averaged less than 20 points per game. You can't have these performances. We look at guys like Terry McLaurin, 5 catches, 43 yards on 7 targets. Jahan Dotson, 3 catches, 23 yards on 4 targets. Those 2 guys combining for 11 total targets. You're leading target people again, leading people in receivers and targets were Logan Thomas, your tight end, and Brian Robinson, your running back. So that's definitely something that's a little bit interesting. Guys like Terry, guys like Jahan, 2 guys who really stood out last year, both of them capable of being 1,000-yard receivers, are not putting up great numbers right now. So we're going to have to wait and see how this rest of the season plays out with this offense. But if I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Eric Bieniemy in these performances, because I know he didn't play call in Kansas City. He wasn't the play caller there. He's now the play caller for the first time in his career in Washington. You're going to go through some rough patches, but now here in the last few weeks, they've been pretty rough. So we need to, I guess the game against Seattle was pretty decent in terms of his play calling, but today's performance, you cannot have Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson both going for under 50 yards in a game against this New York Giants team that is just absolutely ridden with injuries. So that's pretty much it for Sam Howell in this offense. But onto the sacks. I mentioned this earlier. How do you lose a game where you sack the opposing quarterback 9 different times? How? I'm stunned about. I really have no words. I have no words for Jack Del Rio in this defense, because we've had this entire thing this season. We look at the last few games. Hold on, let me pull up the schedule real quick. Jack Del Rio in this defense has allowed 31 points this week, 29 last week, 17 the week before that. But then they allowed 38 against the Philadelphia Eagles, 40 against Chicago, 34 against Philadelphia again, 37 against Buffalo, 33 against Denver. Like, what are we doing here? In the last 4 home games, Jack Del Rio has allowed 37, 34, 40. 37, 40, 31, 38, and 31 in the last 4 home games. You're allowing like 30 plus points per game, and in like even this offense, which is putting up sometimes this offense is putting up 30 plus points, and you're still losing. It's unacceptable. I know today they only put up 19, But this offense has the capability of putting up these 30-plus point games, and you've still lost these games in the past so far this season. Jack Del Rio, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. He needs to go. He needs to go. I can't. This defense has been one of the worst in football throughout this entire season. Ranked 28th, I believe, going into this week. You had to trade away Chase Young. You had to trade away Montez Sweat. I know you're not getting those guys the production that those guys had. Both of them having, I think, 4 or more sacks on the season before they got traded. But we look at the guys who did contribute today, because a lot of people contributed. Jamin Davis had a sack. David Mayo had 2 sacks. 1.5 sacks for both KJ Henry and Jonathan Allen. 1 sack for Daron Payne. 1 sack for Benjamin St. Juste, and 1 sack for Casey Toohill. I mean, it was a lot. I know it was 9 sacks. It was a lot of different guys getting to the quarterback, which I guess you can say is great. I mean, good for the scheme. You're getting a lot of guys in the backfield, kind of confusing Tommy DeVito. But this is, again, the Giants' offensive line. I would be more nervous if this team didn't get like 5 or 6 sacks on the night, on the day or whatever. I would be more nervous if this team didn't get like 5 sacks against Tommy DeVito. They got 9, which is wonderful. That means the pass rush was doing great. But again, it's the worst offensive line in football. You had some of the young guys like KJ Henry getting involved. 1.5 sacks for him. Andre Jones, I want to have to watch back the tape. I don't know where he was. But KJ Henry picking up a sack and a half. Great game from him. He had a tackle for loss as well. 2 passes defended as well, blocked at the line of scrimmage. So a great game from the 5th rounder out of Clemson. Trade up for him back in the 2023 NFL draft. So again, he's starting to contribute, especially with the absence of Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Also, F.A. Obata carted off on the very first drive, I believe, or maybe it was the second drive of the game for the Giants and the Commanders defense. He's going to be done for the year, most likely. I think they said it was a fractured leg. I think it was pretty clear. He got carted off. His leg got rolled up on. He's most likely, I'd be shocked if he wasn't done for the year. I'm pretty sure he is with a fractured leg. So again, hoping for a speedy recovery from him, but the rest of the season now you're going to be without him, which means guys like KJ Henry are going to have to make up his production. Same with guys like Andre Jones. I know Josh Pryor got elevated before this game, the UDFA out of Bowie State. So those guys would definitely have to step up. I would expect Josh Pryor to be elevated again next week unless Washington decides to bring in or sign an edge rusher to replace F.A. Obata. But I expect Pryor to get some defensive snaps on Thursday, I guess, because maybe they sign a edge rusher by then, but that'd be kind of quick. So with the short week, I am hoping we see some Josh Pryor on defense. I know he got some special team snaps today. Hoping we see him on defense on Thursday against Dallas, see what they can do, see what these younger guys can do against a much better offensive line that the Cowboys have with guys on there like Tyler Smith is pretty good. Tyron Smith, Zach Martin. So like that's a much better offensive line than this Giants offensive line. So I expect them to maybe struggle a bit more, but I'm going to be interested to see what they're going to do next week. Now, that was probably one of the only good things today was the 9 sacks that Washington picked up, which was great. David Mayo had 2 coming from his linebacker spot. So, again, great stuff from the defense in terms of the pass rush. Still, with 9 sacks, you weren't able to win the game. With 9 sacks, the Giants put up 24 points on offense with 9 sacks. So, that just shows you how bad this defense is. This defense sacks them 9 times. And yet they still put up 24 offensive points. Again, the other touchdown coming from the pick 6 from Isaiah Simmons. But 24 offensive points for this New York Giants team, even though they were sacked 9 times, is bonkers to me. But yeah, after all of this, let's finally talk about him. Ron Rivera, oh boy. This man, the stuff that this team has been through in its last 3.5 years in Washington. Ron Rivera, the 3 draft classes that he's had since, or I guess he's had 4, but we look at the 2022 draft was decent, but 2020, 2021, and 2023, all those drafts, garbage. All those drafts were garbage. Now here's Ron Rivera, on the hot seat heading into this year. And after a performance like this, losing by 12 points to a Giants team that was on their third string quarterback, their third string offensive tackle too, and Justin Pugh. And then you have a bunch of other guys on this team that are injured. Some of your wide receivers, some of your defensive players as well. Like, this Giants team just put up 31 points on your team, and it's crazy. It's crazy to think about how he still has a job at this point. I really don't know how he still has a job. Like, if I were Josh Harris, now here's the thing, right? Should Ron Rivera be fired tomorrow? Yes, he should have been fired after last season. He should have been fired. But is it a smart idea right now in the situation that that Josh Harris and the Commanders have put themselves in? Is it smart to fire Ron Rivera tomorrow? No, it's not. And here's why. First off, it's a short week. You play the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday. Firing Ron Rivera on a short week definitely sends a statement to your team, and it kind of all gets hectic going into that game against Dallas. I would not expect Josh Harris to fire Ron Rivera tomorrow. When I say tomorrow, I mean the day that this episode is coming out, because I'm recording on the day that the game happened. So I'm talking about like Monday. So I don't think it's smart to fire Rivera on this week because, again, short week. And also, one of the beat reporters, I forgot who, brought up a good point. You fire Ron Rivera, Eric Bieniemy then becomes the interim head coach, right? Most likely, if he accepts the job, which I expect him to accept the job. But how does this affect Sam Howell's development? It's going to slow the process down. If you think about it, right now, Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell, they're like best buds right now. Eric Bieniemy is giving a lot of attention to Sam Howell, helping him develop. If you make Eric Bieniemy the interim head coach, Bieniemy's time with Howell definitely decreases, and those priorities that Bieniemy has to develop Sam Howell, that kind of goes on now to Vita Pritchard, the quarterback coach in Washington. And so Pritchard will now have more of a say in terms of the development in Sam Howell, which kind of will stunt his growth a little bit, or could possibly stunt his growth. Maybe it doesn't, but I would expect it would a little bit, knowing that you're meeting with Eric Bieniemy every day of the week, planning and helping him develop and looking through film and everything. And all of a sudden, Bieniemy, you're still going to meet with Bieniemy, but now you're going to be with the quarterback coach a little bit more, and Coach Pritchard a little bit more. So it's definitely going to be a change with Sam Howell's development if Eric Bieniemy were to become the interim head coach. Because if Ron Rivera gets fired, I expect Jack Del Rio to most likely get fired with him, because this defense has been atrocious. So I could expect him to get fired as well, which would be pretty crazy in terms of the middle of the season. But yeah, those are the two major reasons why I don't think the Commanders are firing Ron Rivera this week. One, because of the short week. That's pretty obvious. But two, because of the development of Sam Howell, which this could trickle into the rest of the regular season. Even if Rivera loses these games on Thursday against the Cowboys, next week against Miami before the bye, I think it's definitely something to think about if you're Josh Harris. Do you want Bieniemy to have more time to develop Sam Howell, or do you want to have maybe a trial period with Eric Bieniemy as the head coach before you go into a traditional coaching, hiring process for your head coaching job after this regular season? Do you want to see Eric Bieniemy at head coach for a few games, just see what this team can do with him at head coach? Because if I were Josh Harris, I definitely love that. But at the same time, I don't want Sam Howell's growth and development to change because of Eric Bieniemy becoming the head coach. So it's a lot to think about if you're Josh Harris in the Commanders front office. We'll see what happens, but yeah, that's what I have on Ron Rivera. And now for what's next? What's next? Well, Washington will travel to AT&T Stadium, Jerry's World, to play the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday, on Thanksgiving. That'll be a fun episode. The next episode for Keeping Up with the Commanders will come out next Monday, not after the Dallas game, unless Ron Rivera gets fired at some point in the next week. Then I'll have an emergency episode coming out, which I don't expect him to be fired at some point in the next week, maybe after the Dallas game. But if Rivera maintains his job throughout the week, which again, we don't know, then the next episode will be coming out next Monday. But yeah, we played Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and then the week after that we play Miami after 10 days at home. So these are two like teams that will be in the playoffs that will play before the bye week. This team is currently 4-7. Season is over. You now play Dallas, and you now play Miami. So you could really be 4-9 heading into the bye week with Ron Rivera still as the head coach. I expect if they lose this game against Dallas, if they lose this game against Miami, you would have lost 6 of your last 7 before the bye week, and hold on, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 9 of the last 11 before your bye week. You would have lost 9 of the last 11 if you're Washington, if you lose against Dallas and Miami. I think they squeak past one of them. It won't be pretty, but be more of Dallas being bad or Miami being bad than Washington being good. But if you lose both, then you're now 2-9 in the last 11 games. So I think Ron Rivera would be gone at the bye week if you lose both. We'll see what happens, but that's kind of the upcoming schedule. Dallas on Thursday, and then Miami the week after that. You got the bye week, and then the last month of the season. But yeah, that'll be it for this week's episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. See you guys in the next one. Peace.